Welcome, everyone, to episode 425 of Dial the Gate, the Stargate Oral History Project. My name is David Reed, and a day I have been looking forward to for a very long time has finally arrived. Ben Robinson, Master Replicas. Welcome back, sir. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to be here. You're going to solve our whole energy crisis in one podcast. I'm really looking forward to this. Vacuum energy has arrived from the Pegasus Galaxy. This has been something that fans have been wanting for since 2003 with the airing of Lost City. There is a jewel-looking battery that is powerful enough to defend the entire planet in Lost City from a smarmy Goa'uld by the name of Anubis. And it's attached to this weapons platform in Antarctica. Did you, when you guys got the property for the license for Stargate, at that point for you, was it just a foregone conclusion? It's just a question of when we're going to do this one, or was it like, I don't know if this will be in our wheelhouse. We're gonna do the ships and the gates, and what was your thought process?
Yeah, I think it's exactly what you said. We were going to do the ships. That was the main thought. And then obviously the gates. I mean, when you think of Stargate, you think of gates. But we've done all the gates and we've done most of the ships. And everything's had a really nice response. People have been very, very kind, very enthusiastic about what we've done. So you start thinking, well, what else is there that really ought to be done? And the ZPM or ZPM, depending on which character you are or which country you're from,
Yeah.
seemed lots of Canadians, so it's a good thing to be. We're Scots.
Yeah.
So it seemed like something that we could do a good job with. And it seemed like something that people would want, which it seems from the response in the last 48 hours, whatever it is true.
Can I ask an inside baseball question?
You can ask. I hope I can answer.
And it just went out my head. Oh, yes. Is a props license separate from the license that you have for the ships?
It is. But so I don't think Eaglemoss had props of the license, but when Master Replicas took over it and me, we added props in. So I guess that's the point at which we started thinking, yeah, we should do a ZPM. Because that would have been why we added props. I mean, that would be the main thing.
Can I ask to see it?
You can. Now, this is only a prototype.
Yes,
so
sir.
it doesn't light up, but you can see how big it is, which I think is the main thing. Because I think the problem with photography is people might think that this was just like a little 8-inch thing, but it's not. It's full size.
Can you hold it horizontal in front of your face?
I like this.
There we go.
I mean, I can hold it the right way out.
Wow.
But then, unfortunately, I don't know how anyone's going to make that stand up. There you can see, and this probably won't be white, but there's a USB port there, so you can see that it
wow. So that's what that is. Okay. So it's only on one side.
Yes. So yes, you only need one USB cable to make it light up.
Man, oh man. Look at that. How long have you guys been developing this?
How long have we been developing? Probably about 8 months, something like that.
Okay.
I mean, we did a lot of research. Obviously, we looked at as many ZPMs on the show as we could, and ones that had been sold at auction, and that kind of thing. Unfortunately, we didn't actually have one to physically scan and copy, but sometimes it's better not to do that, because you're trying to replicate the way it looks on the show. And one of the big problems, one of the big challenges we had is it looks one way when it's not lit up and another way when it's powered. And it's like quite trying to find the balance in the colors to be like, oh, okay, that's right.
That's right. Yeah, no, there's a whole process that goes into this thing, because we've had that conversation before, specifically about the puddle jumper, where it's one thing when it's off and in your hands. It's another thing when it's lit by stage lighting. And this has a completely separate hurdle because it's going to be lit from inside. And so it has to have a certain amber color to it for people to be like, okay, that makes sense. And it doesn't necessarily translate when you hold it. I can speak from personal experience that it does when you hold it in your hand. It's like, okay, that glow is correct, because sometimes, you know, the movie magic throws it all off, and then you have to be like, okay, well, if I'm going to have this thing physically and it was enhanced on the screen, how do we strike the balance when people hold it in their hand? And there's a whole bunch of hurdles that you have to jump over just to arrive at the proper balance for a prop that can turn itself into an item that you can purchase for a reasonable price. And you guys have begun to do that.
That's the plan, definitely. I mean, yeah, it's definitely a challenge, because when you see it, obviously when you see it in the episodes when it's not on, it's got that kind of translucent quality to it. There's like, obviously with stage lights, they're very bright. They're much brighter than you realize at the time. So getting the balance of making it look suitably, and in fact now even here, I could do it. Maybe if I can just put a bit of light on. Yeah. You see, look, you put it. That's like, I've got all right, but the light makes it look quite different.
Yes, for sure.
And that translucency and all of that balance was definitely took a lot of thought. And then, yeah, unfortunately, this one doesn't light up, as I say, but you can see from the photographs on the site,
yes,
does come up really nice and bright. But yeah, it's quite yellow when it's powered up, and quite orange when it's not. So that's the kind of thing. That's the kind of thing
the balance with this one.
Life worrying about.
Is it too yellow, or no? It's too much orange.
Yeah,
we need more yellow. We need more yellow.
Is it more yellow in this episode, or is it more orange in this episode? Oh, hang on a minute. O'Neill's holding it in this one. That's what it should look like.
Apparently, at one point, some of them were stolen and they had to be recreated. So there's a whole. So on top of that, which one are you dealing with?
Yeah, exactly.
There's a whole process that you have to go through to find, again, like with the jumper, where are we going to land? Because you have to pick a spot.
You do.
And then you move forward. Wow, that's awesome. Well, I am sure excited. And are they on sale to the general public at this point?
They are, yeah. We just have 24 hours initial kind of first window for people who belong to our members club. But after that, everyone can buy them. So it's on pre-order now. It's due to ship just the beginning of the fall, so in September.
Okay.
It's selling really fast, actually. So I think the initial order is in danger of selling out. I'm saying that. I haven't checked numbers today.
Oh, well, then I'm just going to go ahead and pre-order mine right now then. So I will just go ahead and take care of that. Everyone else just go ahead and wait. Okay.
I might send you one to be for an unboxing. We might be able to sort that out.
Stop the show. David's got to buy one. Beat all of you schlubs. Oh, man. No, I'm not surprised at all. Is this one of those where, is it going to be a limited run, or... Okay.
It won't be a limited run, but what will happen is it will be out of stock for a while. So what happens is you do one production run, and then if it sells well enough, you have to do a minimum quantity. So it has to sell. You have to be confident that you're going to sell a certain amount, and that takes a bit of time. So if it goes that way, it could be out of stock for 3 or 4 months after the.
So if you want it for Christmas this year, you better get it now.
Yeah, pretty much. If you want to be 100% certain of getting it for Christmas, and if you haven't signed up to the site, you sign up, you get 10% off your first order. So, I would, if you haven't, I would do that.
$149 US. That's very fair for that.
That's the goal. I mean, we always try to be fair. I mean, and the ships, I think, people get used to our pricing on the ships because nobody else really makes die-cast science fiction ships. But they are actually very, I think they're also a very good price for what you get, and we try very hard not to be too expensive. We'd rather people have the chance to buy lots of stuff than make one really desirable thing that bankrupts people.
Well, that's just it. You have to strike a balance. And I have said this before, and I'll say it again with Master Replicas. It's one of the very first companies that I, as a teenager, bought from with a great deal of confidence, because my lightsabers sit in my foyer downstairs right now.
Very desirable, those things. Yeah.
Oh man, they are beautiful collector's items, and the caliber of product these are museum pieces that you're essentially making. It's just up to the buyer to display them in a museum quality, or
all you need
or
is
not.
all you need is your own museum, then you'll be fine.
Wow. All
I
right.
can see you do
Well,
have your own museum, so yeah, easy sell.
look, it belongs in a museum. So I got the Grail diary in the other room. There is so much room for some cool stuff to be created in out of the Stargate property that are scale props. Uh, so this is a success. What's next, do you think?
Wow.
In terms of a one-to-one prop, what would you like to see next?
I I think, well, there's a question about whether everything should be one to one, because some things would be really big.
That's true.
Um, so, but we're looking at maybe like half scale, third scale Jafar helmets from the different Goa'uld lords, system lords.
Hmm.
Um, I think the some of the weaponry, particularly again the Goa'uld weaponry, so the Datnik Tal, potentially the staff. We're still looking. I'm looking at your shelves. Basically, I'm just running off the things that are on your shelves. We like well,
Yeah.
most of those are things that I think we should make. A Kino ball,
Oh, the
I
Kinos
mean,
are they're very vogue this year. They're really in.
yeah. And then obviously
I
Atlantis, Atlantis itself is a thing we keep thinking about,
That's gonna be tricky.
and it's exactly because we did that massive pyramid. And the idea of
Yes.
doing Atlantis is definitely intriguing. It's definitely on the list, but it is quite a challenge technically.
Is the pyramid
Uh,
ship out?
yeah, the pyramid's out. Pyramid's
I
out.
haven't gotten mine yet, Ben. I really want to
I
review it. It's
I
a
will see what we can do. We'll
beautiful
get you one for
piece.
review. It's big and it's
Absolutely
heavy.
gorgeous. That's fine. That's how I like them. Um,
Yeah,
but that was it, it was a shining example of what it is that you can that Master Replicas can do if it goes balls to the wall with spaceships. And the movie obviously has its audience, so I'm really thrilled that it's out there. So
yeah.
there's just so
Edgy
much you
model
can
has spent
mine.
a lot of time studying all the hieroglyphs. They're all, they're not just random hieroglyphs.
Yeah,
They're carefully replicated. And then yeah, the
yeah.
Destiny's out, and I think we're about to try and get some more in stock. That's one of the things that's sold out, which is really
Okay.
interesting because you never know with a
You never
show
know.
like a short-lived show like
Uh-huh.
Universe. You don't know whether that means people are just desperate to get something from it and they've been deprived, or whether it's like, yeah, it wasn't really my thing. I'm an SG1 guy. So that's been very gratifying. But I think pretty much everything else I think is in stock and out. We're working on a couple of Goa'uld ships now,
Really?
and some Asgard ships.
The
Uh,
O'Neill?
yeah, it might be the O'Neill. That would make sense, wouldn't it?
You said the Bliskner sold fairly well.
Yeah, no, the Blister's still done very well. The Blister's done very well. So the O'Neill is obviously similar but different. Um,
Absolutely.
and then there's a whole kind of thing, a technical thing about transferring the detail from the model to different ways. Yeah, it's too
Well, it's
complicated.
got almost like a mirrored surface. So, like, you have to figure out, like, okay, how are we gonna give this a chrome
Yeah,
finish? Is it gonna look like a toaster or,
you can do it. There are various metallic paints that you can use and find. So that should be okay. It's more about like the way the detail is put into the model technically. So I think you just talked to Mark Savala. Um, he supplied us with the original models from the show. Fortunately, he was working with the same vendor at the time that we were looking to get them. But what you get is there are different ways you can add that detail. So you can add the detail in the geometry, or you can put it in the texture maps. And the texture maps is basically like just putting clothes on top. So if the detail is in the texture maps, we have to do a bit of work transferring it over to the geometry because obviously the ship doesn't wear clothes, as it were. Uh,
not strictly speaking.
Not strictly speaking, no. So we've been doing that. So they're in progress. They'll be announced later this year. Um, and then yeah, I think we will have done. I mean, basically, perhaps not every single ship, but we'll have done pretty much every ship that appeared on the show by the end of this year. I think certainly done a good dozen.
Yeah, you've got a lot of one-off episodes like the Ship from Grace or Martin Lloyd's ship in Wormhole Extreme, little things like that. That, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I mean, a handful of people would be very interested in it. But then on top of that, you add the completist fan in there too. I'm sure there's a few of them who just,
well, we
we
need
go
a
nuts over that.
petition. That's what we
Yeah.
need. Someone wants to start a petition. If we can guarantee, I mean, the problem is you put something up for pre-order, you basically already committed to doing it because we make one from the tooling from the shops. So it is the real thing when we're offering something. So
Okay.
but if it's something like that, what you need is people to give you some kind of commitment that they would buy it before you go invest all this money in making it. So if you want to start petitions, get a couple of thousand names of people who say they want something, then that will encourage us to do it for sure. But
Well, I will
all
do
the big
that.
capital ships will get done for sure.
For sure. Okay. Well, I'll be thinking of, like, in terms of some of the one-offs, individual episodes, and we'll do a poll on Dial the Gate through YouTube and see if there's any. There may not be, but there may be as well. So you never know. With Stargate fandom, you can never tell with the things that people are going to be interested in. Like, I never expected the Asgard ship to perform better than the Puddle Jumper did. And there you
see how it
go.
goes over time. I mean, it's a particularly beautiful model and particularly beautiful photographs of it, where it's really detailed. And I think that sense of detail often makes people think, oh, that's a must-have,
For sure.
So it's fascinating the way people respond to things. I mean, sometimes they're responding to the quality of our model, but sometimes they're just responding to whether they like the design or not.
That's
I
true
mean,
too.
a puddle jumpers are kind of a minivan, I mean, and
It's true.
people, they're very practical and very sensible in the show. They make a lot of sense. But
Yeah.
people don't, wake up and dream of flying a minivan around necessarily.
Yeah, the original concepts were much more of a single man fighter. Yeah, but that's the thing. Your square one that you're starting with really is what something's interest was on a show and how it was, and through that how it was utilized and what it looked like. And you're not going to, I suspect it's the very rare buyer who's going to be like, I've never seen that show, but I like that model because that's interesting. I'll go ahead and buy one. But if you're at shows and things like that, I suspect there is the occasional customer who will be like, that looks interesting, I'll pick that up. So
I think so. I think that, and there are people who look at things and think, wow, that looks really detailed. I mean, I think the same thing's true of the Destiny. People look at it and go, wow, that looks really detailed. And it looks really detailed because it is really detailed. In the show, it's really detailed. But you can't, but with the puddle jumper, which, I mean, and let's not, I don't want to do the puddle jumper down. The puddle jumper is a cool little thing.
absolutely.
But it doesn't have that, as you say, for someone who doesn't have the same emotional connection to the show, perhaps, it doesn't have quite the same kind of like, oh, wow, that looks like a really detailed model. I've really got to have that.
That's fair. Yeah, it's designed to go through the Stargate, so it's a certain bit of it. It's going to give an indication of streamline. So even though there's no collision when it goes through the gate, it just goes. But yeah, that's just the nature of it. I haven't talked with you, at least not really in person, or as much as we are right now, about the new series. Thoughts?
Yeah. Oh, well.
New projects, Ben. New projects.
Yeah, I saw. I have a little piece. I don't know if you know this, but Nathan Crowley. You know that Nathan was also an essential part of designing Deep Space Nine on Star Trek.
Nathan had to do with the build of DS9?
Yeah, Nathan and Joe Hodges, who were the set designers working to Herman Zimmerman, and they came up with the real design of Deep Space Nine.
Didn't know he worked under Herman Zimmerman.
Yeah, they were on just at the beginning. They'd just come off
I'll be damned. Yep.
And there's a fascinating story about how they took elements that had been done for Dracula and they used those on Deep Space Nine. And there's a whole, I mean, Deep Space Nine has a kind of quite a Stargate kind of look to it in a lot of ways. Actually, it's got quite kind of Egyptian kind of influences.
Yeah, Cardassian is very Egyptian influenced.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at the Galler class. That's exactly what that is.
Exactly.
It looks like a hieroglyph.
It's an egg. But they did some very clever stuff. They did this stuff with they created these molds that could be used. You could use half of it or all of it or a quarter of it, and you could create all these different shapes with it. And Nathan and Joe were essential to that. That was their idea.
Wow,
That was
Joseph
their thing.
Hodges and Alan Kay. Man, there we go. I didn't know. Well,
There you go.
I'm looking
There's a
forward to
piece of
talking with them
information
about
you might not
that.
know.
Yeah, I appreciate that. No, you see Christopher Nolan in the Tumblr, and I mean it's just deer in headlights. It's like, oh my God, you got all of these amazing movies coming at you. But that's a terrific pedigree. I'm really excited about him. I'm really excited about ILM being involved with Mo and Leo. There's so much stuff to celebrate with that. And I mean, a lot of fans are a number of, not everybody, are hoping for the original gate to return. But from Master Replica's point of view, are you hoping for a new one?
Oh, well, look, I think I've just been doing a lot of stuff about other shows that have been around for a long time. So we do a lot of Star Trek stuff, obviously.
Yeah.
And what you've got to realize is that when this show comes back, it's going to be in HD. It's going to be seen. I mean, I watched it first time around on what, maybe a 24-inch TV. I'm now going to watch it on a 50-inch TV. And my TV is not even a big TV. So you're going to see these things at a level of detail and up close that you have never seen before. Now, I know the gate obviously was used in the movie and, repurposed and all of that, but all the same, this is going to be, just technically, the demands placed on these things are going to be extreme. So I think it's going to have a bit of an upgrade, a bit of a redesign. I mean, I'm sure it will look similar. You don't want it to not look like the Stargate. But I'm expecting it to be, I'm expecting something, expecting some kind of upgrade.
Some tweaks? Okay.
Yeah, tweaks for sure. Tweaks for sure.
Okay.
Well,
it's an interesting
level
approach.
of detail.
I do know that they've if anything, they've set that on the shelf for the time being because there's a whole ton of new stuff to create, the new world that they're building around it. So there's a lot to pull off, and that's quite the balancing act to go in and, I mean, to even consider touching the thing. I'm just really glad that Martin's involved. So let's make the chevrons purple.
That the people doing it have a respect and a love for it, and I think
that's right.
That's true even when there are new people coming in who didn't work on the show the first time around. They will still be people who really respect what it was and who will want to keep that to it. But at the same time, like I said, it's going to be a bigger budget. It's going to be in HD. You're going to want to see something that is, bigger and better and more detailed than you've ever seen before. So that's what I'm expecting. I'm looking forward to it enormously. And I can't wait to find out more. I mean, it'll be
absolutely.
I as yet I am not in the privileged position of knowing any more than other people. So we're in the middle of negotiating to add it to the license, which I'd like to think won't be a problem, but it's a new property, so it's not automatically part of our grant of rights. But and we'd like to get stuff out with the show if we can. So that's all in hand. Obviously,
absolutely.
We know what will happen is that there will be CG assets. So what we do is we work from the CG assets created for the show. And people that opens a whole can of worms sometimes about, oh, well, there was a practical model and then there was a CG model and then there was an upgraded CG model, and which one are you doing and why are they different? All those questions come. But this time around, I think, we know that there will be amazing assets available.
I can't imagine with ILM and all these other folks involved. It's going to be an extraordinary process to watch unfold for sure. So this is a great time to be a Stargate fan.
It is. It is. It is. Just have to be a bit patient.
That's the thing, folks. We're talking with Ben Robinson of Master Replicas. He's just introduced the 0-point module that they're going to be showing off. Can you pull it up against one? There we go. Look at that thing.
I'll
If
try
you
and
guys
get
have,
it. It looks a little dark in that shot. I tried to put it so that there's a bit of light behind it, but
there we
you'll see
go.
the mess that's in my room, and you'll see the black art running for the bus, and
Vertical book stacking, Ben. Vertical book
Oh
stacking.
yeah, I'm quite proud of it. I'm quite proud of it.
No
Listen,
human
that is
being
a
would ever
shelf.
stack
It's not
books
just
like
a stack of
this.
books.
If you have
Yeah,
questions
and
for
that
Ben,
gives you a
everyone,
pretty good idea. I mean, you can see how big it is. That's always the big challenge for us, is like people understanding how big.
scale. Yeah.
So there you go.
If you have a question for Ben with Master Replicas, put a question mark in front of your post in the YouTube feed, and we will get it over to him. And I got to sneeze. And I'm suppressing it. Okay, very good. I got a couple of questions for you if you're good with that.
Yeah.
Chaz Green 66. Does it need to be plugged in to light, or will it hold a charge? How much of a charge are you planning on?
You need to plug it in. It stays plugged in. It's got a USB cable that comes out the back. It's pretty discreet. I mean, we do we do these light up panels for Star Trek. We're looking at a way of doing something similar for Star Trek. And in those, what I didn't, because they hang on the wall, I didn't want a cable that was dangling. But because this, I mean, frankly, you're going to put this on a table.
Yes.
So the fact that there's a discrete cable coming out of the back, I don't think is going to be a problem.
Okay.
You wouldn't believe the tariffs if you tried to put a battery in something.
For sure.
It makes life difficult.
No. Yeah, there's a lot to that process because you've got to. I'm not even gonna get into it. It's a pain in the ass.
I was surprised. But yeah, apparently it really makes life difficult if you put a battery in.
If anyone gets this and they want to have a portable one, I have literally a string of lights that I recommend that you can buy from Amazon. They ship all over the world, and you can put them inside of them. And there's 3 AA batteries in it, and you can take that one portable if you want. And if not, you can plug this thing in, right? Or would that even be?
Absolutely, it's designed to be plugged in. I mean, if you really wanted to not plug it in, someone with some skills could probably move the port on the inside and put a battery and unscrew it and put a battery pack in. But it's designed to be plugged in.
Okay, for sure, absolutely, Mr.
And to be this way up, that's the other thing. We did sit there and think, but there's no way of making it balance on that stuff. So unless you build a sort of receptacle thing for it to go into, most of us will be putting it like this on the
for
table.
sure. I do have some friends though who are already thinking of designs that people can download and create to put their Master Replica ZPM in.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, for that reason, we made sure the base was detailed.
Absolutely, for sure. Mr. N. Bridger, I wonder if it's Nathan Bridger. Can you tell us a bit about the conversion process that you use to turn the CGI model for filming from the show into a format or software suitable for mold making? That's a process.
Yeah, it's a process that factory do, really. The basic thing is that we try to get the original CG in order to make sure that we're accurate, because otherwise you're recreating something based on reference. I mean, as we said, the problem is sometimes there are both practical props and CG models, and they're not always identical. So sometimes that little switch between the two, people could be looking at something going, oh, but there's that detail and you've got it wrong. And it's like, yeah, but if you look at this shot, it's different.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, honestly, it's something that the factory does. There are certain shapes that are very difficult to cast. With this, obviously, the real thing was cast, so that's not really such a problem. But sometimes with ships, like with a CG ship, you can make a shape that no one could actually make, or that wouldn't survive the shipping process. You could make something that was very fragile. So we have to sort of judge the level of detail. There's certain amounts of detail won't show if it's not beyond a certain depth. All sorts of very, very technical little bits and pieces, but we do think about it for sure.
I had a friend who built me a set of replicators from Stargate, and neither of them showed up without having been broken. Like I had to glue one or two of the legs back on each time they arrived because it's just so, it's not, they didn't create this thing with the intent of it actually sitting on a shelf. They created it to move across the scene and chase actors. Yeah.
Yeah, or surviving being put in a box and transported from China.
That's right.
You know, these things are designed to look cool on show rather than to survive packaging. So yeah, there are some things that are just impossible because of that. And sometimes where you just have to make some compromises, but you try to make them as small as possible, and so no one can tell.
You have to make a trade-off somewhere in order to pull some of this stuff off. Yeah, like I know the Enterprise D, and to a degree, especially Tomy has come out with the Constitution class as well. The saucers are very top heavy. You can't, like, if you're going to go fully accurate on a piece like that, you have to support the top with something, because the darn thing, unless you're going to like tilt it, the darn thing's going to fall over.
Yes, or you have. I mean, yeah, I can bore for England about the shooting mounts on the Star Trek models. But that's the other thing, is they're designed to have various bits that are removed in order for you to sort of put these great big metal rods inside them. There's a different era of technology where it's motion control, where these things were, you know, well, generally they were kept static, but there were different mounts. So depending on which way up, it was quite often they filmed the Enterprise D upside down.
Yes.
You know, there's lots of things like that nobody thinks about. Yeah.
Yeah, they just pull it off however they have to. So it's would you guys ever consider creating something like the replicators if there was an interest for it? Like one of the designs, I was just thinking
about, actually, as you were talking about it, I was thinking, yeah, we did talk about doing some replicators and we ought to do something. I mean, again, it's just a case of making them interesting. You know, you'd want them to be in a shape, so I guess you'd want them to be in like that kind of spider form thing, rather than just like, I don't know, what is it, a single replicator?
A series of blocks. Yeah. We can get you some blocks if you want.
Lego.
Right, exactly. Yeah, they snap magnetically together. Just be careful, you don't want them eating your planet.
Everyone starts saying that would be really cool, and then you start realizing how rapidly that becomes very expensive.
Exactly right, for sure. Yeah, but it would be an interesting design challenge to see just how is it possible to pull this one off and make it for a reasonable price, and make it so that the legs, you can snap them on to the main body when it arrives at its destination from China.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but yeah, replicators should definitely be on the list. Again, that's one of those ones where you'd have to try and get hold of the original assets, because, you know, on a standard definition TV, you know, how much detail can you see, and you know, there are all sorts of challenges.
But, I know the guy. His name is Craig Vandenbigler. Yep. He's done them all. No, that there are a couple of really good, like the Atlantis PDAs. Do I have one out right now? Momentito. I don't. Fine.
There you go. See, this is what happens. Same thing happens. We have a lot of stuff, but it's in boxes.
I put them away, you know, I trade them out and they're gone. But I really hope that you guys are just getting started. I hope that the ZPM speaks volumes in terms of the interest that this has, especially now that the 4th series is underway, that people are rediscovering the show as well as discovering it for the first time. And it's going to take them a little while to get to Atlantis and universe, but there's a good shot that we've got a few more customers heading your way for sure.
Well, I'd like to think so. I mean, I like, as much as anything, I just like to think that the franchise is healthy and is doing well. You know, it's such a rich universe.
Yes.
And you know, you think, what a great idea, and it just deserves to be there and to be thriving, you know. So very happy to see that.
What other properties are you poking around at? Are there others that you guys are considering right now? Can you give us an update on that?
We're working on. It's not out. It's not out till next year again. But Blade Runner 2099. We We have some stuff coming. I'm very pleased with that. We did the spinner car. It's actually the spinner car from the first movie, but technically it appears in 2049. So that I'm very proud of. Obviously the whole world just watched the Dune trailer. And we
Yes.
did the Ornithopter from Dune, which turned out
Oh,
great.
wow. You did the
Wow.
Thopter.
Yeah, yeah, that looks really nice as
Fantastic.
well. Got little Star Trek ships coming. They're really, I'm really pleased to be doing. But those have, because of the way the deal works with those have little books with them, and they're really detailed. Lots and lots of information in those.
Man.
Which I've
Wow.
just been working on one of those this weekend. Doctor Who stuff we continue to do. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else.
150 bucks for the Thopter and for the spinner.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
these
I
are very
mean,
reasonable rates. Wow, look at that. That is so gorgeous, Ben. Looking at the Ornithopter right now, it's nuts.
I've got a spinner here. Hang on, I'm going to
You do?
spin it.
Okay.
So, see if it's the
Spin
final
it
one.
up.
Yeah, for me, this is the iconic
Ah.
sci-fi prop. Like, oh, I'll try and get it in the light. Light's all wrong. Hang on a minute. The light's all wrong. Go and look on the site. There are much better pictures of it on the site.
Wow, look at that.
I'm all lit up in a way that's unhelpful because I was trying to do something. But that I'm really proud of. I was
Wow.
lucky enough to meet Sid Mead. I went to his house because he worked on Star Trek Motion Picture as well, which is why I went to
Yep.
see him. But he was a lovely guy.
Wow.
And Bill George, who built a lot of Star Trek models, built the original model of the spinner. So yeah,
Jeez.
that's all coming. We've got a lot of Star Trek stuff. We've got a
Done
production building
foundation.
again. Oh, Foundation, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So we did the faster than light ships, those kind of the knife ships that go through space, and the great big
The
battle station
Invictus.
with the different levels of like a gyroscope thing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
looks like an
go and have a look at the
astrolabe.
site. I mean, people should have a look. I mean, look, even if you don't want to buy anything, there are some very pretty pictures on the site.
Let me turn them
So
on for you because I'm showing them right now. There we go. You should be able
there
to
you
see.
go. There you go.
But yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's yeah, I haven't seen the show yet beyond the first episode, so I'm really looking forward to this. But
Beautiful show.
there's
I
some
mean,
the visuals are just nuts. You
yeah,
know, they've
yeah, it's
just
a really,
done
really beautiful show.
a great Gary
Jerry
Anderson,
Anderson stuff we got. Yeah,
Jerry
we still got
Anderson.
push. We
Okay,
got for ships and stuff. We got Eagles coming for Jerry Anderson.
okay.
Um,
Wow.
what
All
else? I
right.
think that's so. We're always busy. We always got stuff going. Star Trek action figures coming.
Yeah, man.
Galactica,
Mass
that's all
Effect.
the Eagle Moss stuff I did back at Eagle Moss, but I mean, we got that's
Okay.
coming back into stock. A lot of that.
Okay.
Um, like again, really great ship design.
Scar.
Yeah.
No, yeah, yeah. Hutzel was just brilliant, and a lot of that was also Ken Rebel, who Richard Hugh Dolan brought over from Stargate before he went to Battlestar. There's just
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
amazing.
a
The
lot of
same people that keep on coming back is like because they design amazing stuff. So it's just perfect. So this is great. I really appreciate you taking the time to go through this with us
oh well.
and share because it's just Dangerous Dak. Any word on other franchises like the Expanse ships or Mass Effect? Those seem to have stopped.
No, not stopped. Well, Expanse is tricky. The Expanse
Okay.
is technically demanding. So
Okay.
there are things with the Expanse ships that make them very difficult to make at an affordable price.
Okay.
Um, it's basically the way that they are designed on the show makes them very expensive for us to make replicas of, and been reluctant to make things that would have to be more expensive.
Okay.
With Mass Effect, that was just a case of like we wanted to do the Normandy first and to see what the response was like. Obviously, the response to that's been great again. So there's more Mass Effect stuff in the works now. And I would like to think that we end up doing a lot of Mass Effect stuff, but I don't, little early days yet. But there's
Okay.
more on the way for sure. Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. Kel Perim, as someone who has something like 400 of Ben's ships across multiple franchises and
I'm
companies,
sorry. I feel guilty about
how's, how do you balance how many items you make from each franchise and in what order? Or is it just what people are interested in? Like, well, that's done well. Let's do another one of those.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you want to do is offer people things in a way that is affordable.
Okay.
So, you don't want to dump like, you don't want to dump 400 chips on people in week one. I mean,
That's right.
you couldn't, but you don't want to. Um, so, Star Trek ships we've been doing, I mean, I've been doing 15 years now.
Hmm.
So, and also, I mean, Star Trek's extraordinary how many ships there are. I mean, to think
For
there is
sure.
no other franchise that has 400 ships. I mean, Star Wars doesn't even come close.
No,
There's
no.
nothing else that has that kind of number of ships. And in fact, and 400 isn't all of them, you know.
You've
Um,
got shuttles, you've got work bees, you've got all
but you have
kinds of
a
support
ship a
craft.
week. I mean, you just have,
Yeah,
it's a thing that happened in Star Trek, starting with Voyager. Once they shifted over to CG, every week would have a new ship.
that's right.
Every the Hirogen or whoever, they would have a ship, and the species 8472 would have a ship, and so on and so
The
on and so on. So,
bioships.
Star
Yeah.
Trek just has a ton of ships. I don't think I ever imagined. I mean, I see amazing pictures of people's displays. People have these museums. I mean, I don't have all the ships out on display. I don't have a big enough house. Um,
That's true.
Um,
Uh,
so it's amazing and very flattering when you see some of the displays people have when they just have not just dozens but hundreds of these ships.
it's
And,
wild.
and I do feel some kind of need to apologize. There obviously people wouldn't have bought them if they didn't want them. Um,
Well, sure.
but then yeah,
Um,
so then I mean, ideally, I mean, if I had my druthers and I knew that people would buy them, because obviously I answer to people who don't want to make things that don't make money for some reason. Can't imagine why not. We would do everything from everything.
yeah,
I mean, that's part of what I think is appealing, is special about what we do. It's that, I mean, okay, some stuff gets too obscure, but we're not one of those companies that just does the big famous ship that everybody else does.
that's
We
right.
go deeper. I don't think anybody else had ever done a model of the Destiny or of the Puddle Jumper. You're going to tell me they have now, but
Mm-mm, I
that
don't believe so.
that's our goal in life
Yeah,
is to do things that you just can't get somewhere else, and to do them well. I mean, that's the other part of the goal is to make them good, and make them accurate. I think that again in my ideal world, when you pick up a Master Replicas product, you can see it in more detail than you could see it on the show. And that if you turn it over and look at the back or look at the bit that you never really got to see, it will be accurate. And that's absolutely what we want to do. So we want to be um, like an expansion of the show. We're not just sticking a logo on something or sort of going, oh well, we don't know what that looks like. We'll just make it up. That's not our thing at all. So that's that's the goal. But obviously, I would take Galactica as a really good example of that. You have to draw the line somewhere because as much as
mm,
some people sit there saying that they want the whole ragtag fleet, the reality is there aren't enough people who want the whole ragtag fleet. And I would be trying to persuade my bosses to lose money, which is for some reason, as I say, they don't want to do. Um,
look, they've got to make it work, and
exactly.
you have to strike a balance like anything else. Too much of anything is destructive. So you have to figure out what your kind of space is. Francis Revel, what about Galaxy Quest?
Well, yes. What about Galaxy Quest? You know what? We were going to do the Protector, and then COVID struck, and it
Ah,
it was hanging. This is hanging in the lobby of ILM. So we were like, oh, well, we
Detector.
can get perfect reference of it once COVID's over. But everyone was like, oh, we can't get back into the office. We can't take, we can't go and take pictures. So I was talking to John Goodson and Bill George and Alex Yeager about it. And they were like, yeah, we know where it is. We can get you the perfect reference. And then Eaglemoss went down. And it's actually just came up the other day in conversation as something that we should have another look at. So yeah,
I
that
agree.
that is something I would like to think.
It's
I
a
would like.
beautiful ship.
Look,
It's
I'm
one of
trying to
those.
arrange my head to be in your little square.
I can move you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I like the cinematic framing. You see where I'm off the place.
There we go.
Oh,
That's
I
funny.
just oh god, it's terrifying seeing all the great big head.
That's
Yeah.
that's funny. Man.
But yeah, so Galaxy Quest is on the list for sure, and I'd like to kind of get made.
Striker 5665. So Destiny will be restocked.
Yes, it will. Well, I say that. I mean, I'm pretty sure it will. But not in the next couple of weeks. I mean, we knew that it might go back for pre-order relatively soon. But at this point, new stock is going to be 4 or 5 months away. Before it's actually physically available again.
All right. Darkness is coming. Oh, I hope not. Asks, are there plans for it's not as dark, full of terrors. Are there plans for any battle damaged ships like Galactica after the Adama maneuver or near the end of the series, or NX-01 after the Xindi attacks?
Yeah, the thing about battle damage ships, and I'm on record as having said this a lot, is that if you're going to do battle damage, I'm not a big fan of battle damage that looks like a cigarette burn. A lot of times people have done battle damage, they've just painted that damage onto the outside of the ship. And for me, I think if you're going to do it, you need to do it. You want it to be radical. You want it to be really damaged. And that means making new tooling, and that means you have to sell a certain amount, and it makes it difficult. So it's never say never, but at the same time, I always I have reservations about it. It's very difficult on smaller ships. I think on a big ship where you want to be able to see the decks, you want to be able to see the twisted metal, you want it to be accurate. So that's a bit challenging. And then you're saying, do you want to buy a battle damage version of a big, more expensive model, which is again, it's a bit more of an ask. So it always comes up, and I always think about it, but I just want to make sure that we execute it in a really good way. And I've never been completely satisfied with what I've seen, which is why we haven't done.
I think that, I don't know if it was Playmates or if it was Diamond Select. I think it was Diamond Select who did the Star Trek 3 Constitution class 1701 after the self-destruct goes off, and it was one of the coolest models I've ever seen. But that is a very particular piece of sci-fi cinema history right there. So there's
and the reference. I mean, this is me with my obsessions. It's actually quite hard to get it really accurate, because that was back in the days of physical models, and when they blew up, they had the kind of half the saucer blown off model. I don't know where that model is actually. It's quite interesting. I've got good reference pictures of the other models. I've got good pictures of them blowing the ship up. They did some really interesting stuff. They put. I'm trying to think if it was on that one where they do this thing where they put wire wool on things and then they burn the wire wool. And that's how you often get that kind of disintegrating surface effect. Back in the days of physical practical effects. I don't think they did that for 3. For 3, I've got a great picture of them literally blowing it up. And I think that they must have dissolved some acetone on it.
That's exactly how they did that. That's right, on the saucer itself for sure. What a great sequence.
Them doing that.
Kel Perim, I was a subscriber to the Trek ships from day one and met Ben on the run up to the launch. Just wanted to say thank you, Ben, for the insane amount of work it has taken to fill my house.
Thank you for filling your house. As I say, I'm never quite sure whether I should apologize, but I do really appreciate
happy customer.
people caring. Well, I appreciate
That's it.
people, we put a lot into them. Um, and like I said, because we always had the publishing element with things. I mean, we don't with Stargate, which is a shame, but it means that we got to know people who were working on these models,
Mm,
and we understood how things were made and why they were the way they were. I
hmm.
remember having a conversation with John Goodson at ILM about the Aztec patterns on Star Trek ships and how they would, turn the specularity up or down for different shots. So how do you get it right when they change their minds? It's like, oh, well,
That's
it's
it.
it's right for this shot and wrong for that shot.
That's right. In this scene, it looks like this. No, I
Yeah.
for years I had one of I think it was one of the DST models of the Constitution, and I was like, why is the front of the secondary hull turquoise?
Well, it
Why?
is.
And then I went and I looked closely, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, I
because it
mean
is.
that's the other thing that's really tricky. I mean, and this isn't just true. This is true with digital models as well as physical ones. Um, that what they look like in their kind of native raw state and what they look like on screen are not necessarily exactly the same.
Same. That's it.
Um, that people they're in lighting conditions. Um, so there's external light being cast on them, and someone once pointed out to me that if you lit them realistically, you wouldn't be able to see them at all. Um,
That's the thing. There's no ambient lighting. Yeah.
there's
Or
no ambient
minimal.
light in space. You
Yeah.
just have these little, any lights that were on the ship you would have, but that would be it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so again, that's another kind of thing where I was talking to someone who's working with me and saying, oh, well, no, you've got to go back and watch every episode that the ship is in, do frame grabs and see what color it looks like on screen. We can't trust the digital, even though it's the original digital asset that was used in the show.
That's right.
You still want to check to see what color it came out on. And then on top of that, I mean, it's not so true now, but back in the day, they told me that NTSC stood for never the same color. Um,
Oh, that's great. No, that makes a lot of sense, man. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Um, Dangerous Dak wanted to know, look, we need to have the complete Goa'uld ship collection. So that means the cargo ship and the Alkesh.
they are being worked on. I mean, yeah, the Teltac and the Alcash are being worked on.
Perfect. That's
But the
awesome.
complete
Teltec,
gold
that's
ship
right.
includes a bunch of other pyramids as well.
Apophysis, yeah, the one that got blown up, and and then you've got Anubis's, so the flower
Mm.
that does this. Yeah, there's a lot there. Enrique Martinez Marino. It's all one word. Had to break it up. What about the Aurora? The Atlantean battle cruiser.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's on the list.
Okay.
The Orion, the Aurora,
Yep.
these things. I mean, again, it comes down to some of it, as you and I have discussed, is trying to track down the original assets. Um, but yeah, I mean, we're working our way through things, and as long as people keep buying the last one, then we'll do the next one. And
Absolutely,
it
for
does
sure.
basically depend on that. It's like if one loses money, then we're like, well, then it's going to be more popular than the next thing. You know,
That's
I mean,
it.
so you get, you do have difficult things like the Ori, for example. They're not as loved as the Goa'uld,
Yeah,
um, but they are important.
that's
You
right.
know, so you sort of try to. That goes to the sequencing that what you're trying to do is not bore people. So you don't want to do six Goa'uld ships in a row. Um,
Right.
but at the same time, you want to know, you want to have some indicator that if this one doesn't sell enough to be viable, would the next one be less popular, be more popular? How do you judge that?
Mm.
So you kind of go in a descending order of popularity with it, kind of. It doesn't always work out quite that way. It's very difficult for you to judge whether a show is going to be more popular than another one.
You
So,
have
if
to
you were to think about it, you would go, okay, well, it's going to be SG1, then Atlantis, and then
universe.
Universe. But actually, the Destinies, seems to be really, really popular. So,
Isn't that wild? I love that. I love subverting people's expectations. There's just something delicious
yeah,
about that.
yeah,
So,
yeah. It's always good to have expectations subverted. Makes life better.
Martin Teichel from Czech Republic. Are there any plans to or consideration to include ships with moving parts?
Again, it's really difficult unless you make something big.
Yeah.
You struggle to make the hinges suitably delicate. I mean, the Invictus, because of the way it moves, that moves. So the different rings spin,
Mm-hmm.
and that makes sense. But also, again, this was a problem they had with motion control models, is that they would tend not to build movement into the ships because you had to replicate that movement perfectly on each pass, and that was really difficult. One of my great friends, Dan Curry, was telling me he was the visual effects producer on Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
Was telling me how
and also
difficult.
Tai Chi master.
Oh yeah, Dan's yes. If you want to know how to kill someone, Dan is the man. Very, very good on weapons. He invented the batleth.
The Mechleth, yeah.
He's a master of a lot of martial arts. Yeah, but anyway, the fact that Dan can kill you with a thumb, is irrelevant. But he was saying about how difficult it was having the Voyager's nacelles move, and that they had to the stepper motor in those was like really, really difficult to find one that was that accurate and could replicate the movement perfectly every time for the different passes. Obviously, once you move to CG, that's not such an issue.
That's right. But those couple of seasons, yeah.
You can do whatever you want. But back in the day, that the technology was such. So on the whole, I mean, things do move now. I mean, the Athena Starfleet Academy that has like different positions, or the Protostar from Prodigy that moves around, that has different positions. I interestingly discovered that the model of the Protostar with the Protostar drive deployed, the nacelles are shorter, which was interesting.
Really? They shrink. Okay.
Well, I don't think they're meant to shrink. I think it's just a different version of the model.
Oh, wow. Okay. You're looking at it under a microscope. There you go.
Yeah, you're like, oh, we could reuse this. Oh, no, we can't. It's slightly shorter.
Wow.
So, yeah. But yeah, movement again is difficult, and I think it's a kind of premium thing. I mean, it's not a premium thing because the movement is premium, but because you need to make a big model in order to get the hinges to work without being really clunky. I did a lot of way back when I did a lot of James Bond cars, and you have to make a model a certain size in order to be able to open the door just without it.
That's a fair point.
Well, yeah, because otherwise you've got a hinge, and the hinge is visible. You don't want the hinge to be visible.
Yeah, that's a good point.
People are looking for any inaccuracies anyway, so you start adding things that you can't scale properly, then it becomes an issue.
There we go. Last question. Ribbon device consideration? Darkness is Coming asks.
Yeah, I mean, everything's on the list. I mean,
okay.
This is, I mean, the ZPM is our first Stargate. So I think, everybody can imagine where we'll go from here. The Zat gun, the helmets, those are the things. And as we go, we'll see what the response is like to those, Kino Ball. We'll see what the response is like to those, and if the response is good, then we'll keep going. So that's kind of how it works. It's like you like I said, you think, well, this is probably more popular than that. Let's do this first, and then when
Get
nobody
surprised.
does it, you think, well, it's probably still more popular than that thing we haven't done yet, so let's not do it.
Yeah, I'm thrilled that you did Destiny, because I know a number of people who would have been like, we're not even going to bother with SGU. And I'm thrilled that it's the sales have risen to justify that. So
yes, and that's always part of that's part of the pleasure of it, is that sometimes people are just so pleased that something's been given its chance, been given its due.
That's right.
Like, yeah, there should be stuff for SGU. I mean, they're really, it's a good show. It should have stuff.
That's it.
And it's you know I'm sure it holds an important place in a lot of people's hearts, as it should.
Ben, this has been great. Thank you for coming back on, and thank you for letting us see. I think we're the first ones to see the 0 point module in person.
You are.
This is,
yes. As I say, I wanted everyone to see how big it is. I promise it does look. It just looks a little dull in this. Like in my this is not my studio. This is my a very messy office. But if you have a look on the site, you can see what it. You get a much better idea of what it really looks like. But what you can't see is how big it is, which I guess. I mean, I tried to. There you go. See how big my head is. I have quite a big head. But that gives you an idea of how big it is, and we'll get you one when they're actually here.
Well, I'm thrilled, and you can go to masterreplicas.com. We're going to put the link in the description below for people to check it out. It's a beautiful piece. I'm thrilled you guys have got it. I'm thrilled that it's accurate, and hopefully this is just the beginning. So
we always hope. We always hope. But I hope it's people. More than anything, I just hope people like it. And that it makes people happy. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Ben. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show on this side, but I really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure. We'll talk to you soon.
Pleasure to see you, sir. You take care of yourself.
Yeah. Bye.
That is Ben Robinson of Master Replicas, everyone. My name is David Reed. You're watching the Stargate Oral History Project. If you enjoy Stargate and you want to see more content like this on YouTube, do me a favor and click the like button. It does help with the show. Will continue to help us to grow our audience. And if you want to see more content like this as it debuts, click subscribe. And if you click the bell icon, it will notify you the moment a new video drops, and you'll get my notifications of any last-minute guest changes. And clips from this stream will be released over the course of the next few weeks on the Dial the Gate YouTube channel. We are going to be taking a bit of a break, but within the next 55 minutes, we're going to start up Arrival over on Wormhole Extremists. So if you have a copy of the film, preferably Region 1 NTSC, although with movies, I guess it would play at the same speed, but definitely not TV. We're going to watch this film, and if you've not seen it, I don't know if you should watch it with us or not. It's definitely a rewatch, but I don't know. Evie's going to be watching it for the first time, so yeah, we're not going to spoil you. This is a terrific film. It's my favorite film from 2017. Highly recommend you join us over on the Wormhole Extremists YouTube channel to check that out. My name is David Reed for Dial the Gate. I'll see you in a couple weeks. Taking some time off. I'll see you on the other side, guys. Bye-bye.